Today we're gonna make a nice New York strip, pan-seared, rubbed down with a little bit of coffee. We're gonna sit that on top of a nice acorn squash puree with a side of roasted asparagus, and then we'll finish that off with a nice chimichurri. Let's get started. We're gonna get started by taking our acorn squash and we're gonna get that peeled and dice it up and get that on the stove. Just gonna take the acorn squash, cut off both ends. All right, you want the flat surface so that it can stand up just like that. And then just take your knife and cut around it to peel off the exterior. Don't worry about making it all the way around on every swipe because you can always flip it. And then you just get whatever you missed once you flip it. All right, so we take our naked acorn squash here. We peeled the skin off. We're just gonna cut that right in half just like that. Open it up so that we could peel out these innards. I like to use a spoon and just scrape out the interior. Scrape out all that slime. Now we'll take our clean pieces here and we're gonna get them diced up. We're gonna put these into a puree, so it doesn't have to be an exact science, but you do want consistent sizes so that they all cook evenly. I'm gonna take these chunks and then cut them into even cubes just like that. Just kind of make sure everything's consistently sized. All right, chopped up, we just take this, put this right, take all your chunks, put them right into the sauce pot. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some water in here, a little bit of salt. We're gonna let this go until these become tender. While we're waiting on the squash, what we're gonna do is actually get started on the chimichurri itself. The chimichurri, the longer it sits, the more flavor it develops, so we'll get working on that. By the time we're done with that, squash should be done and we can make the puree. We're gonna go ahead and grab our parsley, all right? I already rinsed this off. What we're gonna do is just cut a good sized bunch. You don't have to worry about getting too many stems in there, and any big stems you could just kind of pick out. All right, and we're gonna take all this parsley and we're going right into the bowl with it. Next, we're gonna get some fresh oregano inside of there. Just go ahead and peel off your leaves, get rid of the woody stems. This should be enough oregano right here, about a tablespoon. And you just go right through this with a knife. That's the easiest part about the chimichurri, is you just kind of chop through all these. And they don't have to be super fine or super diced. If you want it chunkier, that's fine, it could be chunkier. Going with that oregano. All right, so now we're gonna get started on the red pepper flakes here. Depends how spicy you want this, how much you're gonna actually use. So I've got these right here, and the reason I'm putting them on the board is because I'm actually going to chop these up a little bit. The reason you kind of want this chimichurri to sit too is because you've got things like red pepper flake in there, and they need time to absorb into there. Now we're gonna get some garlic inside of here. I'm just gonna peel this garlic open. And then just peel the garlic. Comes off a lot easier when you just crush it down like that. Now we're just going to take this garlic and start to mince it down. All right, there's the garlic. Just gonna get that on there, right in. Now, this is the basis for our chimichurri here, everything that we just put in: parsley, oregano, red pepper flake, garlic. Now what we're gonna do is actually punch this up with a little bit of vinegar, and then about 2 ounces of oil. And then we're just gonna give this a nice stir. Now as this sits, it kind of draws out more moisture. And to help do that, we're actually gonna add a nice pinch of salt, a few cracks of regular pepper. I think that's perfect right there. All right, so we're just gonna let this sit off to the side here at room temp to really marry this together. And that looks delicious. Let's give it a taste. It's really good. Super fresh, vibrant. So we'll let that sit, marry together, and we're good to go. All right, so the chimichurri is done. It's off to the side, just resting inside of that bowl, marrying all those flavors together. And we're just keeping an eye on the acorn squash. It's about ready. I'm gonna take it off the stove and we're gonna work on that puree. While the acorn squash is still piping hot, we're gonna actually start working on the puree because when it's hot, it actually purees way better, way smoother. So we're gonna start by adding in our heavy cream. We're gonna add a nice knob of butter in there and start working that down. So that puree is done. Now, if you want, you could run this through a mesh just to get it more smooth, but with this thing, you don't need to. It's gonna be so smooth and so pureed. So I'm gonna add in a nice pinch of salt. Then I'm gonna give this a stir. Now we're gonna keep this on the stove on like a low, maybe medium low heat, just to keep it warm while we finish everything else. It might thicken up a little bit more actually, and that's good. If you were looking at this and you thought it was too thin, you could take this back on the stove on a nice low medium heat, maybe medium, and just kind of keep an eye on it and keep stirring it. It'll thicken itself up because it'll reduce down more. But I like this consistency, it looks pretty good. It's gonna thicken up a little bit more on the stove. So yeah, I think we're good to go. Let's give it a taste. See how it tastes. That's actually really, really, really good. It doesn't need any more salt. I gave it a nice pinch of salt at the end, butter, heavy cream. This is absolutely delicious. We're gonna put this on and just let this sit on the stove. All right, so now we're gonna work on the asparagus that we're gonna roast. So I'm just gonna get these asparagus here, take off whatever is holding these together, and just cut off these big woody ends. That's basically inedible right there. There's a reason I'm using this little paring knife. I'll show you in a second. This is where the technique comes in. So to do these, what we're gonna do is take our knife like this. We're gonna actually do a little incision, score it all the way around like that. Take our knife and peel up to that incision. And this peels that end. Now when you're making that score around, I'll show you again how to do it, but make sure that you're just scoring the surface. And what you do, it creates this, not only does it look really cool, but also gets rid of that woody end that you otherwise wouldn't want to eat, and you still get this innard that's good. Now I'm gonna go ahead and season these up. Take a little bit of oil right on top of those. Salt, important. Draw out that moisture while it's roasting. Crack some pepper on top. Scoot those around a little bit. Get them all covered up. And then this is going in the oven at 425. It should only take about 20 minutes. For the steak, we need to get the spice rubbed together before we can actually get it onto the stove. So what I've got here is some coffee. This is actually ground espresso. Use your discretion, but I probably put about 3 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons in there. We probably don't even need that much, it's just a small steak. Put a little pinch of brown sugar in there for that caramelization. Then, got some cayenne here. I'll probably throw in a little, probably about a teaspoon. Gonna add some salt to this, a nice couple pinches. And some pepper in there. All right, what I'm gonna do is give this a stir. Looks good. Now we're gonna take our steak here, our beautiful New York strip. we're gonna rub it down. You can use any old New York strip. What I have here is actually an aged New York strip, but you can use any kind. I just happen to have one of these at the butcher. It looks really nice, so. And just let that sit there for a few minutes while your pan gets hot, and that's just gonna really penetrate that New York strip and get all that flavor into there. All right, so we're gonna get started with this steak over here. Got it right here. It's resting with all that coffee on there. I've got this pan getting nice and hot, so I'm gonna start off with some olive oil in the pan. Nice amount. So the pan's really hot already. And I'm looking for it to get shimmery, a little light smoke to it. Nice light smoke to it. Control your temperature while you're cooking. It's a good temperature. It's not too hot where it instantly just burns when I put it in the pan, but it does, you can start to hear that sear on it. So now I'm actually gonna take this and lay it on its side for a second and get that side seared, because this is a nice thick steak. I wanna seal in all those juices, so I wanna be sure that I sear it on all sides, searing all that flavor. And what we're gonna do, you see how it gets that really, really dark color on it? It's beautiful. So we're gonna actually let this sit here after we've seared it off. Control that heat, make sure it doesn't get too hot. We're gonna get a big knob of butter in the pan here. So if you've got it at the right temperature while you're basting as well, you won't burn the butter. This butter is gonna start to get a little bit dark just because of the coffee, but you can smell it and it's not burning, and that's what you want. You wanna make sure that you're at that ideal temperature. All right, so we're about there. I'm gonna go ahead and take this steak off, let it rest. Let's take this lemon, cut it right in half. And we're just gonna take that, go directly on there. We're gonna use that lemon to get all that flavor off the bottom of the pan and flavor our lemon at the same time. Now we're gonna assemble the actual dish. There's a few last steps that we have to take here. We're gonna start with this lemon. Asparagus just came out of the oven. What I'm gonna do is just tiny squeeze of lemon right on top for the acidity. Don't go crazy, just a little split. And then some pepper. Finish those right off. Those are gonna be beautiful, okay? Now, this preferably micro arugula, but any microgreens you can get your hands on. Squeeze a lemon right in there, okay? So, to start, let's get our steak sliced. So the steak has been sitting here, it's been resting, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and get it cut up now. Basic rule of thumb, you want it to rest almost the amount of time that it took to cook. So this has been resting for about 8 minutes now, but I'm gonna go ahead and give it a slice. All right, to plate this dish, we're gonna start with a little dollop of puree right here. Nice amount. Clean your spoon off and just kind of swoosh it on that side of the plate like that. Leave the tail end of that puree there. You can just kind of blot off your pieces of steak on the board so that it doesn't get super runny. Asparagus. Some asparagus. Right on the side of the plate. All right. Right in the center there. Just a little bit of freshness on the plate. I'm gonna take this lemon, lay that right on top of the asparagus. Take the chimichurri and go right over the steak with that. So here it is, the coffee rub New York strip sitting on top of acorn squash puree with a chimichurri and some roasted asparagus with a nice grilled lemon. Let's give it a taste. I'm gonna taste this puree. That puree is so good. It's so rich and it's fluffy too because it's so light. I know it's just gonna complement this steak so well. Let's give that a taste together. A little bit of that chimichurri in there. That works so well together. The chimichurri is so bright, works so well with the steak. The steak's so tender from all that coffee and it's got so much flavor in it. And then the chimichurri with that rich, creamy, delicious puree. And it just all works so well together. I mean, even just the puree and the chimichurri is delicious. The steak just takes it to another level. And you know what? Chimichurri's not too spicy, even though we added all that red pepper flake in there. But it's so good, I just want to keep eating it. Let's taste the asparagus. Let's take our grilled lemon, squeeze that on top. Super good, super simple. Roasted asparagus, just salt and pepper, and they're so delicious. They speak for themselves. A little bit of lemon on top, and you actually get flavor from that grilled lemon or the flavor from the steak. Everything kind of just works really well together, and you got this light kind of salad in the center to break everything, a little bit of freshness. It's a really, really well-balanced dish. It's delicious. It's one of my favorite things to eat. Anytime I make a steak, rub it down with a little bit of coffee. But hope you enjoy making it.